We are thrilled to have you here. Can we get to know a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I love this topic, super passionate about it. I have a 14-year-old daughter myself, and I have been working in the startup, tech, brand, and marketing space for about 20, a little over 20 years. I started my career in the US in a couple of different cities, inclusive of New York and California and the Bay Area. And then eventually moved with my family to live and work in Asia, which is where we live and work today.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for that. I'm curious to know now, growing up, did you have a particular framework in mind in terms of how you would approach having a family and a successful career?
This is an interesting question. I think what I had were a lot of examples. So I come from a multi-generational household. Maybe some of you can relate to what that means. For a period of time, I had great grandparents, grandparents who were around, lots of cousins and aunts and uncles. So my world felt very, from in terms of a definition of parenting, it came from a lot of sources. I'm the eldest girl in my mom's family, and so that in of itself, carries some level of responsibility of when you start to have younger siblings, then you might, sort of help out or maybe start to appreciate the role that especially women play in kind of raising children and growing. But I think more so than a specific framework, I had a lot of different examples. And I felt extremely loved. I felt extremely, it felt normal to have such a loud and boisterous kind of household with lots of different family members and all these different experiences and lots of different opinions.
Very nice, very nice. And tell us, how did things play out when you were thinking of family and work at the same time?
So the interesting thing, so I mentioned my grandparents, particularly my paternal grandmother and grandfather, were the most defining, I would say, in terms of my lived experience of parenting, along with my own parents. And my grandmother, at one point, I think helped to sharpen my view of family and career. I was working in consulting. I had finally gotten my own apartment in Brooklyn, in New York City, and I met my now husband. But at the time, he was just someone who I had started to get to know, and I was flying out Sunday nights and returning on Thursday, based on the work that I was doing, which was mostly a lot of travel and being on site at clients, and so I was away a lot of the time. And for some reason, I cannot remember the context of why she gave me this advice, but she basically said, at some point you're going to have to decide if you want to continue to take these really great career opportunities. I'm so proud of you, like you're doing so well. You're doing so many things and you're traveling to all these fabulous places. But I get the sense that you do want to have a family and a real relationship. And if you want that, you're going to have to invest in the time. And I thought, it felt kind of traditional in my, view of the world for one reason or another. I mean, both of my parents are still married, and my grandparents were married until my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago. So I have a lot of these models of, sort of a traditional household. And when she said that to me, I thought, oh, so this is how it works. Okay, so I have to decide if I want to slow down a bit on my career. That's what I heard back from her. And then invest time in sort of getting myself prepared to be married or to be in a relationship with someone. And the interesting thing and how it played out was I did. I asked for an assignment that allowed me to work from home so that I could get to know my husband. And I resented it a little bit, though, I have to tell you. I didn't enjoy working from home. I felt like I was left behind a little bit in what I was, able to contribute to, and I didn't have the most exciting projects. But my husband and I did get married about a year and a half later, and we're married now almost 20 years later, so it worked out pretty well.
Oh, I loved hearing that. And coming from multi-generational household, that does strike a chord with me. Yeah. Wonderful. So, what's your best advice, Tawana, for being ambitious on what you want to achieve on both sides here?
One big tension point for us came with the decision for my career to advance a bit further and for me to be a primary breadwinner for our household financially, and for us to move from the US to Asia. And so my advice comes from the experience of learning that understanding what you want in a particular phase of your life is something to continuously think about, communicate, identify, and be intentional on working toward it. Because without that, you can end up with, without the compass or without the filter that allows you to process, whether it be the new job opportunities that may come your way, the assignments, whether or not you want to have a child or have more children, like all of those decision tree elements, where you want to live, what's important to your family being successful. What does even success look like for your family, especially when your children start to require more investment of their academic, career or their sports and all of the things that they're doing. So I've grown up with my husband and finding a way to think about what we want in a particular phase. And we've gotten better together at defining those options and recognizing that it can change. It does not have to be static. And we can, maybe choose some things for ourselves in the process as well. It doesn't always have to be, what's right for the whole family. Sometimes it's going to be what's right for my career right now, but at other times it's going to be what's right for, the whole family. So thinking through that is one bit of advice that I would offer.
So, tell us, Tawana, one thing you wish you had known earlier on.
Sure. Well, it's something I continue to work through now, which is asking for what you want, particularly at work. I do think that that is important, especially for moms and working moms. There, unfortunately, are a lot of biases against working moms. To be honest with you, when I took the Harvard Business School test on unconscious bias, the bias that I had was against moms who work from home or moms who stay at home. I was horrified by that. But I think that comes from, sort of systems and structures that maybe put in my head that if you wanted to contribute and you wanted to be successful, that's the way that you had to, you had to do it, is sort of work outside the home. And a lot of people have that bias. So if and when you start to build a family, what I have found is that people will make assumptions about what you want for yourself and for your family and for your career. And so until you can take advantage of the opportunities to make it known, whether it's doing performance reviews, during career conversations, finding mentors and sponsors who will speak up for you in those talent reviews when you're not in the room, if there are aspects and things that you want out of your career, making sure that people know that you will take a different assignment, that you might consider an international move, or that you're willing to work on this project, which may not, you may not be the person that comes to mind, again, for the biases that many of us have. It's really important for working moms in particular to sort of redefine the paradigm that many of us have on not only what's possible, but what we want. And until we communicate that, other people are defining that for us.
So, Tawana, we would like to wrap up with the most favorite parenting story of yours. Please share that with us.
Sure. Well, this might be a bit of a full circle story in that I am super close with my dad. So we've spent a lot of time talking about moms. And my mom, of course, I have a very strong relationship with her. She was really career ambitious. And I grew up with my dad picking me up or getting me ready for school. He worked at nights. And we would take my mom to the train station because she worked in the city in Manhattan in financial services. And then he would take me off to school. And so there's a couple of things in there. I learned a lot about, sort of this career mom from seeing literally my mom getting dressed in the morning in the mirror, like putting on her heels and her accessories, her perfume, and heading out for the train. And my dad supporting her by getting me ready, taking me to school. And because he worked at night, they were able to work out, who was around. And I spent so much time with my dad as a result. Today, my dad and I are really, really close. And we have a couple of traditions that center around tennis, where we go to tennis tournaments around the world. And because we live in different countries, when we get together, we use the time, there's a lot of time on the court, to talk about everything. And I really cherish that because one thing I've learned from him, my dad wasn't always a great dad. He had a lot of challenges growing up as a person. But what it taught me of seeing our relationship grow and seeing that he was a human and yet he could still be a great dad even through all of the mistakes. And so as a parent, I have this model of someone who was very human, who helped me to understand how do you recover from mistakes, and then how do you continue to build a relationship with your children throughout their life phase. So I love that so much because I hope that my own daughter would not only have a deep relationship with me in the way that I have with my dad, but also with her dad.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Tawana, for being with us. It was such an incredible opportunity to have you with us. Thank you.